Xylo was the greatest holy knight who had defeated many demon lords, but one day, he was framed by the church for leading his men to death and sentenced to be a hero for the rest of his life. However, that was not a reward but the worst punishment he could receive. He kept fighting monsters without rest until one day, he met a powerful goddess who promised to help him destroy all demon lords in exchange for praise and head pats. In the peaceful forest covered half in snow, a wimp named Dot is running for his life, screaming that he is screwed. He trips and falls on the ground, and as soon as he sees a vicious monster chasing after him, he has no choice but to get up and keep running, which would have been easy if he did not have to carry a huge luggage. Nearby, the Holy Knights are in an even worse situation because the monsters have already caught up to them and started snacking on them. The only surviving knight hides with a priest, thinking that they need to rescue a coffin before the monsters reach it. The priest tells him that there is no need for it and they should run away. And seeing the look in his eyes, the knight realizes that the temple has abandoned its knights. He is so shocked that he gets up and a monster instantly pounces on him, giving the priest a chance to escape. At the same time, the monster following Dot catches up to him and hits the luggage he is carrying to send him crashing. As Dot gets up, he finds a piece of wood lodged in his belly, and he can barely hide in a tree crevice in time as the monster comes after him. Dot tries to hold off the monster with his legs, but apparently he always skips leg day and can't do anything to stop the monster. He calls his friend Xylo for help, and just in a few seconds, he makes his spectacular entry. Xylo pounces on the monster from above, stabbing its head and then twisting his knife to make him squirt from his head, which is really freaky if you think about it. Once that is done, Xylo tries to treat Dot's injuries, but the wimp is not ready to let the wood be taken out of his body. Dot screams in pain as he tells Xylo to kill him already, because the temple will resurrect him later anyway. Xylo tells him to shut the hell up because there is no way he is carrying his useless corpse back to the temple. He yells at him and says that the resurrection of the heroes is just a procedure to drag their soul back from hell and stuff them back into their bodies. However, this reuse and recycling of souls comes with great negative effects on a person's memories and sense of self. Xylo asks Dot if he has forgotten that already after being revived too many times. Dot can't answer his question and Xylo goes away to start a fire, saying that the Holy Knights have no plan of collecting his body. So if he really wants to die, he should do it away from his sight. Xylo then heats up a knife, telling Dot to man up and grit his teeth, because he is surviving this even if he doesn't want to. Dot prepares himself mentally to have his wounds sealed off by burning them, and after a lot of screaming, he is finally stable. At night, they sit around a fire and Xylo calls Dot an idiot sandwich and a thief on top of that. He tells him to stop his old habit, and Dot blames the Holy Knights for stopping their carriage in a place where stealing from them was so easy. Xylo tells the victim blamer to shut up and reminds him that he was only given the job to scout out the monsters that are called fairies in their language. Dot says that there are a lot of fairies and Xylo affirms, saying that the intel from headquarters said there were about 5,000 of them. Dot almost pisses his pants on hearing that because the two of them are supposed to hold off this many fairies at bay. Xylo looks at the fragments of demonic blight spread on the trees and says that they need to help the stupid Holy Knights retreat safely and then contain the blight here. He tells Dot not to even think of running away because that is a death sentence, but the wimp replies that death doesn't really matter to them. They can be revived as long as the temple has a corpse, even if it is not theirs, and corpses are surprisingly easy to make. Xylo once again reminds him of the side effects of resurrection and says that one day, they might even forget who they are. He doesn't want that to happen and tells Dot that he should also stop trying to take the easy route every time. He says that they are heroes who have no choice but to complete their mission and then smashes his empty bottle on a rock. He then gets ready to assist the Holy Knights with their evacuation when suddenly, his eyes fall on the huge parcel that Dot stole. He decides to check what it is, and when he uncovers the cloth on it, he finds that it is actually a damaged coffin. Xylo loses his patience on seeing this and begins yelling at Dot, who was mentally prepared for this to happen. He says that the coffin looked very stealable, so he decided to take it. He tries to pacify Xylo's rage by saying that they might find something useful inside. That makes Xylo even more angry, and he asks Dot why the hell did he even steal a coffin with a corpse inside it. Dot acts timid as he says that they don't need to worry too much about it because they can just leave it here since it is too heavy, and if the temple gets mad, they can always return it. Xylo gives up trying to reason with a kleptomaniac and decides to check who is in the coffin that is really fancy. He thinks that it must be a noble or a big shot from the church, and hopes that at least it is someone he wants to punch in the face. However, he is shocked to open the coffin and find a girl there. Dot thinks that the girl must be a royal because of how nicely she is packed. But Xylo is trembling as he tells him that the girl is not even human but a goddess. He gets frustrated on realizing this, and Dot asks him if he is talking about the ancient weapons created to fight the demon lords long ago. Xylo curses the goddess, saying that they are the so-called only hope of humanity, but they don't seem to be of any use. Dot is curious now because the ancient weapons usually look like giant whales or lumps of metal, but this is the first time he is seeing one look like a girl. Just then, they hear a horn in the distance and Xylo tells Dot to leave the coffin behind and hurry up. They reach a cliff from where Xylo can barely spot a group of holy knights that must have blown the horn. So he asks Dot to see them more clearly with his sharp vision. Dot finds the knights being attacked by a bunch of fairies, and only their leader is able to do anything against them. He manages to slash down some of the monsters, while the other knights become toys and feed for the monsters. Dot tells all that to Xylo, who has pulled out a telescope to see everything clearly. Dot recommends that they should run away before the monsters finish the holy knights and find them. But Xylo says that not all the knights are dead yet. He can see that a fair number of them are still struggling to stay alive, and he decides that saving them is their best option right now. Dot panics on hearing this and tries to convince Xylo that he is making a very stupid decision. Xylo, on the other hand, declares that their mission is to save as many holy knights as they can, and he is willing to risk it to save even one more knight. He declares that they will jump straight down and save all the knights by sundown. Suddenly, he hears a feeble voice repeating what he just said, and as he turns around, he sees the living weapon stagger towards him, saying that his words are quite admirable. She quickly regains her spark, quite literally, and tells Xylo that he has passed her test, and now he will be her knight. Xylo appears shocked first, and then pissed at the human Charminder, who tells him that courage like his is perfectly suited for a goddess like her. She promises that with her strength, they will win and save the knights stuck down there, and in return, once their mission is completed, Xylo has to praise her and pat her head. The last part takes Dot by surprise, but Xylo is so bitter and angry that he doesn't care what the blonde lowly wants. She starts dancing around, telling Xylo to feel free to write songs about her greatness, and he realizes from her pride and desire to be recognized that she is a real deal. On top of that, he also figures out that she is not among the 12 goddesses that have been activated yet, and the lowly affirms. She declares that she is Goddess Teorda, a guardian who brings miracles to people. She tells Xylo to rely on her power as much as he wants because that is the sole purpose of her life. However, he doesn't want anything to do with her. He yells at her that he hates goddesses and then decides to help the knights on his own. He asks Dot to keep an eye on Rita, who is curious about why he doesn't want her help. Xylo then jumps from the cliff to reach the knights quickly. He asks Dot to tell him where the knights and the monsters are most concentrated, because he wants to create a huge ruckus to attract the monsters towards him. Dot reluctantly obeys his command and quickly relays the details of the battlefield to Xylo, who gets ready to make a move. However, he hears Rita's voice, who is flying next to him, saying that his friend seems to have better eyesight than regular humans. Xylo asks her why the hell is she chasing after him, and Rita makes it clear that he is her knight, and she has already promised to make him victorious. Xylo still doesn't want anything to do with her, but their loud argument succeeds in attracting the attention of the fairies. Rita notices them coming and Xylo steps forward, saying that he doesn't need her help to deal with them. He activates his power and enchants his dagger with it before yeeting it at the monsters with full strength. The dagger hits a monster right in the head and then explodes violently, destroying the monsters around it. Xylo rushes to collect his dagger and the surprised Rita follows him, curious about his power. He tells her that it is the seal of heat and light, and tells her to hide somewhere while he fights. He then rushes ahead, defeating all the monsters in his way till he reaches the Holy Knights. He tells them to evacuate while he is holding back the monsters, when suddenly, 2 monsters attack him. Xylo throws his daggers at them, causing them to explode, and just then, Dot also arrives on the scene. Xylo tells him to stop acting like a bitch and start shooting, but before he can even draw his weapon, a monster attacks him. Dot panics but manages to shoot the monster with his weapon's green energy, causing it to blow up. He is really excited because he didn't expect to hit a target with an old model of a thunder staff, and Xylo tells him to stop getting carried away by every little thing. He keeps fighting the fairies on his hand, and in the meantime, Rita reaches Dot, completely exhausted after running so much. She says that they won't lose, and he simply asks her to rest because she is tired. Meanwhile, the captain of the Holy Knights orders his men to group up, and Xylo decides to make his work easy by taking out a huge horde of monsters rushing towards them. He jumps up a fallen pillar and uses his dagger to blow up the monsters, but one of the monsters survives the attack and uses the smoke cover to launch a sneak attack on him. Xylo suffers an injury to his thigh that leaves him unable to move properly, but luckily, Dot comes in clutch and blows the monster just as it is about to swallow him whole. The workaholic Xylo doesn't stop even after an injury and rushes in the direction of the monsters, and Dot has no choice but to follow him. Rita also chases after her self-appointed knight, asking him to wait for her. Soon, the knight arrives and Xylo and Dot have exterminated all the monsters in the area. Xylo struggles to walk back to the place where the knights are camping and asks them if they have got a death wish to still remain in this dangerous place. The leader of the knights gets up to thank him, but as soon as he sees the tattoo around Xylo's neck, he reaches for his sword, calling him a hero like it is a curse word. Turns out, it is indeed a curse word because only the worst criminals get sentenced to the punishment of being a hero. Xylo doesn't care about the sudden change in the attitude of the knights and tells them to get lost before more monsters come. Just then, Dot and Rita also arrive there, and they get worried when they see the knights behaving hostile with Xylo. Their leader even points his sword at Xylo, saying that being saved by a criminal like him is a permanent stain on their honor. Xylo was low-key expecting this from the beginning, so he just tells the knights to leave before more monsters come. However, Rita steps in just then, proudly declaring that her knight could not leave a bunch of weaklings to die on their own. Instead of helping, her appearance makes things even worse as the knight captain realizes that she is a goddess and asks Xylo what the hell is she doing with him. He knows that the transport team was handling the coffin in which Rita was being transported and demands to know how Xylo got his filthy hands on her. Xylo can't tell them that Dot stole the coffin, and he gets ready for a fight against the knights instead. Dot tries to calm the situation by saying that a bunch of monsters is heading their way, when suddenly his tattoo and that of Xylo rings loudly, delivering a telepathic message from their teammate Venetum, who is panicking about a huge mess. They are both irritated by him yelling so loudly without a warning, but Venetum says that this matter is so serious that he could not wait. He asks Xylo if he is free right now, and Xylo defeats a monster before telling him to take a wild guess. Venetum figures out that he is busy, but then says that the matter is quite urgent because the main force of the Holy Knights is heading directly towards the Blight. Xylo is shocked to hear this and tells Venetum to give him the details. Venetum, who is in the base camp of the Holy Knights, where a huge panic is taking over the high-ranking officials as they talk about the missing goddess. He explains that the knights have regrouped in the middle of the forest, and they are preparing a strategy to fight against the demonic Blight, and Xylo finds the idea laughable. He asks the leader of the knight group what their captain is thinking, and though other knights are angry at his attitude, the leader says that their captain Kivia made this call, and they are going to follow him to death for honor and glory. Xylo scoffs at them, asking what can they accomplish when they are in this state, but then Venetum interrupts him again. He says that their mission is to protect half of the Holy Knights, but if they face the Blight directly, they will be wiped out. In that case, the hero squad will have failed their mission, and they will probably be killed in barbaric ways before being resurrected. Dot freaks out on hearing that and asks Xylo if they really have to save the knights again, and Rita tells him to stop being a wimp and accept his destiny to save the weak and helpless people as a true hero. Xylo asks both of them to shut up and then asks Venetum the location of the knights and learns they have reached the second crossing point along the river. On hearing this, the knights get ready to join them, but Xylo tells them that in their current condition, they will only be a deadweight to their respected captain. He tells them to head south instead, where they will meet the group that supervises the hero team. He gives them some rations as well, saying that they just need to punch Venetum in the face as a payback for saving their lives. Meanwhile, he plans to head north to meet the knight captain and lecture him about his stupid decision to die in the demonic Blight. The knight leader asks if he really plans to save the knights, and Xylo affirms, telling Dot to get ready for their mission. Dot refuses, saying that they should let the Holy Knights die, and he knows that Xylo thinks the same. Xylo tells him that if it was up to him, he would let any idiot who wants to throw away his life do so gladly. But doing that will give these jerks a reason to look down on him. He doesn't want that to happen, and while Rita is really impressed by his logic, Dot is confused about what his team leader really wants. Xylo doesn't give a shit about what anyone thinks and orders them to follow him. At the same time, the Holy Knights are resting after a harsh battle against the monsters during the day. While they eat and recover, a patrolling soldier spots the monsters and immediately alerts them. The Knights quickly get information with the Thunder Staff users at the front. Their commander, Captain Kivia, tells them to take aim but hold their fire till the last moment. Just as the monsters cross half the width of the river, Kivia tells her men to fire, and the powerful Thunder Staffs paint the river purple with the blood of the monsters. However, it is too early to celebrate because more monsters approach, including giant trolls that are too powerful to be taken down by Thunder Staffs. Kivia orders thunder cannons to be deployed to deal with the big monsters, and they do a great job at stopping the trolls. Xylo and his group see that from a distance, and he remarks that he doesn't know any knights in the group, and even their banner is completely new to him. He thinks that they don't have the firepower to hold off a continuous barrage of monsters, and Dot says that they should just leave them to their fate. Rita lectures him, asking if he has no desire to claim glory with the knights, and he gets sad as he tells her that the knights won't share it with them. Soon, the thunder cannons run out of ammo and Kivia orders her men to switch to standard weapons, and those who can't use them are forced to fight against the monsters with just spears. Xylo watches everything and realizes that the demon lord commanding the monsters is quite smart, and the knights need a strategy to combat him. However, as he turns around to tell Dot that they need to go to the knights, he finds that Dot is missing with a note that says that he is going to steal some loot from the knights. Xylo curses him and says that he always knew Dot was not trustworthy, and Rita takes this chance to tell him that he can always trust her. Xylo still refuses to use a goddess, but then he finds a very dangerous enemy approaching the knights. He immediately uses his flight seal to launch himself forward towards the knights, hoping that he reaches them in time. He sees the red cloud quickly heading towards the knights and realizes that he doesn't have much time. He soon reaches the riverside where the foot soldiers are getting their asses whooped by the monsters and begins throwing his daggers to blow up the monsters. As soon as he lands on the ground, he dashes ahead, killing all the monsters in front of him, and the foot soldiers see hope of surviving the nightmare. However, just then, a bunch of specialized monsters hatch hundreds of eggs at once, and the tiny monsters from them launch themselves towards the soldiers. The soldiers try to take them down by shooting thousands of arrows at them and hoping that a few of them hit. The arrows successfully take down a lot of monsters, but the ones that are remaining pounce on the soldiers and begin melting their body with their powerful toxins. Xylo also faces difficulty with the small and numerous enemies, so he dodges them, jumps high in the air, and then throws his dagger at the egg sac monsters, causing them to explode. He keeps decimating the monsters single-handedly, and even Captain Kivia notices him going goblin mode at the monsters. Xylo completely loses himself in the combat, using his power of heat and light without holding back, and soon, there are monster corpses all around him. He is exhausted and stained in filthy blood by now, but as he wipes off the blood from his face, Kivia starts approaching him. Xylo takes off his robe as she asks who is he, and instead of giving an answer, he asks her if she is the idiot who is leading the knights to their death. Before she can answer, Rita comes running there and asks Xylo how could he leave her behind. Kivia is stunned to see the goddess with him and asks what is she doing here when they safely sent her to another city. She then accuses Xylo of attacking their transport squad and stealing her, but he tells her that whatever happened isn't his fault. He then gently pushes Rita ahead, telling Kivia that he still hasn't made a pact with the goddess, so she is still usable for the knights. Even Rita loses her "I can fix him" attitude after hearing this and asks Xylo why is he rejecting her like his crush once rejected him. Xylo coldly declares that he hates goddesses and asks her to search her knight among the gang of uniformed losers. This makes Kivia furious, and she asks Xylo to explain who is he and what is he doing here. He replies that there is no time to do that, because a demon lord is almost at their door. He turns towards the forest with a red patch appearing closer and closer. It is the blight that spreads everywhere the demon lord goes, and as soon as ordinary creatures come in contact with the blight, they mutate into fearsome monsters. Soon, the gigantic bug-like demon lord comes into view and Kivia recognizes him as the 47th demon lord, Odd Gagi. The demon lord commands his minions to rush ahead, and immediately, a huge horde of canine monsters come out of the forest. The knights panic on seeing them and charge up the thunder cannons, but the demon lord notices this too and activates his power to protect himself. Kivia realizes this and tells her men not to fire, but it is too late as the cannons are fully charged. They fire directly at the demon lord, who is protected by a powerful barrier that deflects most of the thunder blast, but retains a small amount that it reflects back at the knights. The thunderballs destroy all the cannons and causes enormous damage to the knights. Xylo realizes that they can't fight the crafty demon lord with long-range attacks and suggests they need to fight him up close. Unfortunately, Kivia doesn't have any melee weapons that can damage him. She decides to use a powerful explosion to destroy the monsters created by the demon lord's blight at least, but Xylo tells her not to even think about it, because that will kill her and everyone present here first. He tells her that they should retreat to the east because that is their safest option. But despite looking at the danger approaching them, Kivia decides to keep charging ahead. Xylo loses his cool at this, asking if she is stupid. He tells her that he has orders to help the knights retreat, and he will do that at all costs. After Kivia hears this, she finally realizes that Xylo is a hero, and she immediately loses whatever little respect he had earned after defeating the monsters. She declares that the knight commanders have the final say on the battlefield, and she's going to fight and die here for honor. Xylo tells her that her honor means shit, and asks her if she can't see that she is leading a bunch of people to their untimely death. Kivia doesn't care about the life of a hero because he is going to be revived anyway. She reveals that she ordered the goddess to be sent to the capital, and she was ready to die here with her people to ensure that the demon lord didn't notice her. However, she is here now and all her efforts have been in vain. Rita nervously replies that she just followed her knight Xylo here, and that name is oddly familiar to Kivia. However, before she can question him, something suddenly attacks them. Luckily, they all dodge the attack, but her horse becomes prey of a weirdly shaped monster. Xylo looks at the demon lord to see what is happening, and just one glance at it makes him realize how screwed they are. The demon lord uses its stinger to shoot a bunch of projectiles at the knights, and Xylo commands them to stay low. The meat blobs take out a lot of knights, but that is just the beginning of the horror. They suddenly hatch into ferocious bugs that overwhelm the knights, and at the same time, the regular monsters begin to move closer. The knights have no chance of surviving with monsters attacking them from all directions, but Kivia tells them to hold their positions somehow. The knights reply that they are their limit already, and Xylo is no better. He has used up almost all his daggers with the explosion ability, and just as he is catching his breath, he notices a giant troll attacking Kivia, who is too stubborn to get away. He rushes to help her, using one dagger to explode in the troll's face to push it back. He then jumps on top of it and stabs its head with his daggers, but they snap because of the troll's tough skin and explode immediately. Xylo somehow avoids getting caught in the explosion and returns to the ground. But now he doesn't have any more weapons. Just then, the bug monsters topple up their remaining thunder cannon very close to their location. The thunder cannon explodes, and everyone is caught in the blast. A few minutes later, Xylo opens his eyes and finds Rita lying at a distance from him. He feels incredibly weak and injured, and Rita is not doing any better. She weakly calls out his name, asking him to use her power because otherwise everyone will die a horrible and pointless death here. Xylo pulls himself back on his feet and refuses her offer even in this desperate situation. He says that he will never enter a pact with a goddess again, and then yells out Kivia's name, asking her to form a pact with Rita instead. However, he doesn't hear her reply in the chaos of the battlefield, no matter how much he screams. Then suddenly, his feet hit the blood-stained armor that he saw Kivia wearing and realizes that there is no hope now. The sounds of the holy knights dying at the hands of the monsters become too much for him to bear, and he starts hyperventilating. Luckily, Rita is there to snap him out of it, and she tells him to use her power to save everyone who is still alive. Xylo realizes that there is no other way left for him to go, and he agrees to become Rita's knight. She is delighted to hear that and asks him to pay the price for their pact. Before she can explain what the price is, Xylo takes off his gloves and cuts the back of his hand, asking Rita if that will be enough. She affirms, and then asks him to swear an oath to show greatness as her knight, but Xylo asks her to skip the formalities. Rita then kisses his blood, and just as she ingests a tiny bit of it, Xylo experiences a sensation that he never wanted to experience again. He curses himself for entering into a contract with a goddess again, but soon returns to his senses and his wound heals. Rita confidently asks him what kind of blessing he wants, and he sees a reflection of thousands of floating swords in her eyes. He asks for the power to send the monsters flying, and she is happy to hear that. As the dust clears and reveals the horde of monsters surrounding them, Rita uses her power and creates a giant portal in the sky that begins raining sharp projectiles. Rita declares that she is the goddess of swords, and then the projectiles crack open to become sharp swords that rain down on the monsters, instantly ending them. Xylo can only stare in awe at the rain of swords, and when it ends, he finds that it only targeted the monsters and the surviving humans are still alive. Rita is proud of that, and she tells Xylo that he can finally start praising her. He tells her that it is not the time for that yet, as there are a lot of monsters who are still remaining, and everything else can wait till he defeats all of them. He picks up a sword and yeets it at a big doggy, blasting its head, but there are more of them to deal with. Xylo tells Rita to keep giving him swords, and she tells him that he better praise her a lot when the fight is over. She summons a bunch of swords right in Xylo's range, and he keeps shooting them towards the monsters, bombarding them with the power of heat and light. The knights are stunned speechless by his power, and soon, even Kivia comes out of the rubble to see what is going on. Xylo is relieved to see that she is alive, and he orders her to clear out the remaining small fries before retreating from this place. Kiva takes offense to this and asks how dare a mere hero order her around, but Xylo tells her to listen to him if she wants to survive. He declares that he is not going to die here, and he doesn't want anyone else to die on his watch either, and for that, he is going to kill the Demon Lord. Kivia's jaw drops on hearing that outrageous declaration, but Xylo starts walking ahead, saying that if he survives the battle, he will accept any punishment. Rita starts walking with him, asking if he is finally ready to fight for honor. Xylo tells the lowly to stop acting like an immature brat because fighting for honor is a bunch of bullshit. He packs up some daggers and then picks Rita up, telling her that he craves violence and the Demon Lord in front of him is the perfect target to let loose. He leaps towards the Demon Lord using his flight seal, and a bunch of monsters dash towards him to stop him. Rita asks if she should finish them off, but Xylo tells her that her help is not needed yet. He throws a dagger at one monster and clears out a whole bunch using the explosion. As he lands on the ground, Rita starts complaining that Xylo is not using her help because he underestimates her. He replies that even goddesses have their limits, and he has noticed that her flame burns brighter whenever she stresses herself out. He tells her that if she tries to work herself too hard, he won't praise her, and Rita can't say anything in response to this. Xylo tells her to leave the planning to her knight, and immediately after that, he faces off against another batch of monsters. The Demon Lord watches the fight from far away and sends even more monsters to stop Xylo before he reaches his location. Xylo has no trouble dealing with the monsters on his own, and even as Rita asks him to let her handle the next batch, he refuses. He keeps slashing the monsters and blowing them up with his powers, but then a giant troll suddenly appears in front of him. Xylo uses his flight seal to nutmeg the troll and slash the monsters around him quickly. He then uses his flight seal again to rush headfirst towards the troll and pierces its heart to defeat it. With that, he comes face to face with the demon lord and Rita is intimidated on seeing how giant and menacing he is. She tries to act brave and says that she was made to defeat the demon lord, and she is going to use her power now. Xylo tells her to wait just a bit longer, and just then, the demon lord decides to take matters into its own hands. It attacks them with one of its long legs, but Xylo uses that as a foothold to dash towards it. As soon as he reaches the main body of the demon lord, Xylo throws a dagger at the exposed tissue, causing it to explode and destroy one of the demon lord's limbs. The demon lord begins screaming on losing one leg and immediately shoots out the egg pouches towards Xylo and Rita to overwhelm them. Xylo dodges that attack and Rita tells him that he should really let her use her power or they will be overpowered. He agrees and tells her to clear out the monsters in front of them to open a path. Rita immediately makes swords rain and defeats all the monsters in front of them, and Xylo uses this chance to leap towards the demon lord again. He is about to tell her the next part of his plan, but apparently, she already knows what they need to do because their minds are linked. She uses her power to summon a giant golden sword, and Xylo tells her that it is exactly what he needed. He grabs the sword and enchants it with the seal of light and heat before kicking it towards the demon lord with full power. The enormous sword crushes the demon lord's thick armor and embeds in its flesh, exploding with enough power to blow its organs into bits. Xylo gets away from the explosion in time, and just as he thinks that they have won the battle, the demon lord goes berserk. Its injured tissues start regenerating uncontrollably and take the form of huge tentacles that rush straight towards Xylo and Rita. Xylo is worried because the tentacles are going to hit Rita first, and he uses his body to shield her from the blow. He takes a lot of damage from that, and Rita is worried that he is going to die because of her. She starts to panic as she wakes him up, but then out of nowhere, Dot arrives there and asks them what are they doing here. Xylo takes a moment to register that Dot has come back, but then he notices a yellow barrel next to him. Turns out, this kleptomaniac stole an active nuke from the Holy Knights, and this time, Xylo decides to give him a pass because he could use a nuke to get out of this situation. He begins adjusting the power and timing of the nuke, saying that luckily, it is an old model that he is familiar with. He activates the nuke and Dot still hasn't figured out how he is going to use it. Xylo says that he is going to leave the demon lord a goodbye gift and then flies towards him. He then kicks the nuke towards the demon lord with more power than Ronaldo and more precision than Messi. The nuke lodges itself right in the open wound of the demon lord, and as soon as Xylo returns to the ground, he grabs Dot and Rita and then leaps off in the opposite direction. The nuke detonates a few seconds after that, and the explosion is so powerful that it levels the forest around it. Morning arrives soon after that, and it is oddly quiet and peaceful after the brutal war last night. The remains of the demon lord lay scattered around the forest, and the monsters begin to run away in all directions, and the holy knights are confused by their behavior. Xylo sees everything from a cliff and says that since the demon lord and the blight have vanished from the forest, the monsters can't stay here for too long. He says that he has defeated a fair number of demon lords, but he has never done it in such a ridiculous and stupid way. He thinks that Dot deserves some credit for this victory. And even though he is passed out right now, Xylo plans to buy him a drink once they reach civilization. Suddenly, Rita stands in front of him, telling him that he was splendid in the battle against the demon lord, and he did it with the help of her power. She says that he must be happy that they won and tells him that it is time for him to shower her with praises. She even wipes her head to be ready for any head pats. But Xylo doesn't share the same enthusiasm. He calmly tells her that she did great and survived the battle, but Rita finds that a bit underwhelming. She asks if surviving is the only thing that deserves praise, and Xylo tells her that it is really important. Rita feels that as a goddess, she shouldn't be happy just for surviving, and Xylo tells her that she is free to decide whatever she wants, but she needs to keep living for that. Rita gets cheerful on hearing this, and she says that she not only survived, but also defeated the demon lord. So she deserves a lot more praise for that. Xylo gets annoyed by her constant demands and decides to silence her with some head pats. But just as he is about to touch her head, some faint memories of the past flood his head. He remembers another blonde loli that was once an important part of his life, and thinking about her, he pulls his hand away from Rita. Just then, Kivia comes there, and now that she has confirmed his identity, she is even more hostile towards him. She accuses him of stealing a goddess and a nuke, and then defeating a demon lord without permission, all of which are serious crimes. Xylo doesn't refuse those charges, and then Kivia turns to Rita, telling him that she was sent to the next city to choose a worthy holy knight to wield her power. Rita says that it must be destiny that she ended up with Xylo because he is the one worthy of using her powers to defeat all the demon lords. Kivia is enraged on hearing this, and she tells Rita that she would not have said this if she knew Xylo's crimes. Rita is curious now, and Kivia tells her that Xylo's crime is that he killed a goddess, leaving the lowly goddess stunned. Turns out, years ago, Xylo was a holy knight captain who had formed a pact with a goddess named Senerva. he recalls his trial for murdering his goddess, where the judge asked him to confirm details of the events that led to the worst crime a holy knight could commit. Xylo agreed with the judge when he asked if he led his unit to fight the 11th demon lord. But when the judge said that he did it without permission, Xylo objected, making it clear that he received an official order. The judge told him that no such order was issued and blamed Xylo's desire for glory for the incident where he lost a great number of soldiers as well as a goddess. When the judge asked him if he killed the goddess Senerva, Xylo bitterly affirmed, saying that he had no other choice. He says that they couldn't locate the team they were supposed to rescue and backup didn't come. They were stuck in the middle of a demon blight and Senerva fought hard to receive gratitude and praise for saving everyone. She pushed herself too hard, and in the end, she reached her limit. Senerva got infected by the demon blight as well, and Xylo had no choice but to put an end to her life. He told the jury that when a goddess reaches her limit, she becomes corrupted by the demon blight, and that is the worst possible thing that can happen. However, the judge refused to believe him and accused him of blasphemy. He declared that Xylo was making up things out of his ass when the truth was that he killed Senerva after going berserk because of all the magic seals he had engraved onto his body. He decided that he had heard enough and ordered the knights to subdue Xylo, who was still trying to argue that he did everyone a huge favor by killing the goddess before she turned into a monster. However, as the guards pinned him down and he looked up to see the judges ready to deliver their verdict, he realized that it was a trap from the beginning. They planned to send him to fight the demon lord without any preparations so that they could get rid of him. They succeeded in their mission by framing him for killing the goddess and sentenced him to be a hero for the rest of his eternal life. Xylo was furious at the people who led hundreds of his soldiers to their death and even made his beloved goddess suffer a cruel fate. As he was sentenced to be a hero, he swore to himself that one day he would find everyone responsible for this and kill them. Xylo vividly remembers every detail of how he felt that day, and renews his vows to hunt down whoever forced his soldiers to march to their death. As soon as the memories reach their climax, he suddenly wakes up gasping for breath as Rita asks him if he was seeing a bad dream. She tells him that a wimp named Venetum asked her to wake him up, and she wants to be praised and thanked for that. Xylo gets up, still sweating heavily, and tells Rita that he will be there in 5 minutes. She already knows that he is lying off his ass, and asks if he is going to go back to sleep the moment she leaves. Xylo affirms as he wipes his sweat, and Rita keeps insisting for him to come with her. He changes the topic and abruptly asks her what is she still doing here because she must have heard the truth about them by now. Rita gets a bit gloomy as she affirms that she knows that only the worst criminals get sentenced to become a hero, and she also knows about Xylo's past. He tells her that it is enough for her to leave him, but Rita is sure that he had some real reason to kill his goddess. Xylo tells her that the reason does not matter, and nothing can change the fact that he killed a goddess. He decides to put his whiny ass back to sleep and tells Rita that their pact can be cancelled by mutual consent, just like my parents' divorce. Rita immediately rejects his suggestion and remains firm on her choice. Xylo is pissed at her, but then Venetum contacts him through the tattoo, making him even more irritated. Xylo threatens to unalive him if he disturbs his sleep again, but Venetum tells him that they have another mission, and if they don't get ready for it in time, the higher-ups will kill them all and then reincarnate them. Xylo is irritated by this development, but Rita gets excited because it is the chance to show off her powers again. She starts pulling him up when suddenly, a commotion starts outside. Xylo tells Rita not to pay too much attention to it, because the ones behind it are just some stupid members of the hero squad. Soon, the group departs for their mission, and Rita's enthusiasm starts getting on everyone's nerves because they are a bunch of boring adults. On the other hand, Kivia also receives a fresh set of orders about clearing out some tunnels. She asks her superior if they have also been corrupted by the demon blight, and he affirms. The man suddenly starts dropping the lore of the world, saying how the first demon lord appeared in the form of a serpent 20 years ago, and ever since then, the demon blight has been taking over their land and water. In the past 20 years, humans have lost about half of their inhabitable area, and they need to stop the blight from spreading any further. That is why he has already sent the hero squad to the Zuan tunnels, and he urges Kivia to meet with them quickly. At the same time, the hero squad is taking a break in the evening. Rita asks them where is that little thief named Dot, and Venetum replies that he is in the repair shop. A guy sternly blames Xylo for it, saying that he might have tapped his ass a little too hard this time. He says that as his loyal subjects, they should take better care of each other, and Xylo just nods in response, calling the guy His Majesty. Rita is curious about the guy now, and Xylo tells her that the big guy named Norgal is the Delulu final boss, because he thinks he is the king of the Federated Kingdom. He massacred a bunch of people he thought were rebelling against him, which was counted as a terrorist attack, and that is why he got convicted to be a hero. Rita is scared to hear that they have a certified terrorist in their midst, and then she points towards the zombie-like guy in the corner who is watching the moon without any thought. Xylo answers that he is Tetsuya, and he has been in the hero party longer than anyone else. They don't even know what his crime was. And he has been resurrected so many times that he has lost most of his memories and sense of self. Xylo says that they will also turn like him if they are not careful, and he is pissed that this is their inevitable reality. Soon after that, the hero squad reaches a town near the tunnels, and the people there are not happy to see them. They sit in a quiet corner and Venetum tells Rita that the people here look so tense because the blight is almost about to swallow their town. She notices a woman talking to the Holy Knights and Venetum says that normally, everyone should have been evacuated from this place by now, and it is suspicious that so many people are still here. On the other hand, Xylo heads to a blacksmith shop to ask for some digging tools that will help them clear the tunnels faster. The lady tending to the shop begins crying, saying that there is no point in doing that now, and asks why didn't they come faster. Just then, a girl approaches Xylo and points him towards the direction of the tunnels. Xylo thanks her and starts walking away. But then the girl asks him if her dad will return home today. Her words force Xylo to stop, and the girl begins to cry as she says that today is her birthday, and her father promised that he would be there for her. Xylo leaves quietly, not willing to tell the girl that her daddy is just like my daddy, and he will never return home. Soon after that, Xylo leads his squad to the tunnels, which used to be a prosperous iron mine before the demon blight corrupted them. Rita is curious about a lot of things, and the first question she asks is about the sacred seals. Xylo tells her that the guys at the temple say that sacred seals are knowledge given to them by the gods. Venetum tells her that sacred seals are Norgal's speciality, and he is a genius who can work out complex formulas faster than an entire team of nerds. Norgal explains that the sacred seals are powered by sunlight, and they are activated by the life force and willpower of their user. He gives her a demo by lighting up a lantern with the sacred seals, and Rita is totally impressed by this. In the meantime, Venetum begins thinking about the mission at hand. According to the intel they have received, a month ago, the miners suddenly turned into monsters. Not because it was Halloween, but because they were corrupted by the demon blight. They started attacking people indiscriminately, and the temple believes that the 51st demon lord is controlling them. Their mission is to clear a path for the Holy Knights, so that they can take out the demon lord with their heavy infantry. As soon as they reach the tunnel entrance, Venetum tells Xylo that as their commander, he is supposed to stay in the town and coordinate with the Holy Knights. He is ecstatic that he won't have to bust his ass in the tunnels and quickly runs away, telling Xylo to do his best. Soon after that, Xylo and others start digging the tunnels to clear a path, and Rita offers to help him. But he tells her to sit down because he can't waste a goddess's stamina for such petty labor. Just then, Kivia arrives there, and after throwing shade at Xylo, she asks Rita if she would like to rest comfortably with the Holy Knights. Rita refuses because she wants to watch Xylo work, and before Kivia can try to convince her, Norgal gets up and declares that as the king, it is his duty to make sure that the wishes of his subjects are respected. Kivia is flabbergasted by his attitude and asks Xylo if this guy lost his mind because of multiple resurrections, and he replies that he was always schizo. Kivia lets that go, and then asks Xylo why didn't he explain that Dot was the one who stole the goddess. Xylo replies that no one would have believed him, and Kivia orders him to tell everything to her whenever they are working together. He affirms, before saying that the mission they gave them this time is pure bullshit. He claims that usually, a corrupted mine would be left closed, especially in such cold weather. But if the temple has sent them here to open it up, there must be some special reason behind it. He wants to know what are the bastards at the temple up to, believing that they plan to use Rita as a weapon here. Kivia tells him to stop being a conspiracy theorist and focus on his work, and that is even more sus to Xylo. Soon after that, he manages to dig away through the blockage, and immediately, a bunch of monsters charge at them. Xylo orders everyone to withdraw, but Zombie Guy charges ahead instead, chopping the monsters with his battle axe. A bunch of monsters emerge from the ground and Xylo uses his explosive daggers at them, but the damage to the mine worries him, so he decides to leave the monster extermination to Tatsuya, the zombie who goes crazy on the monsters, chopping them up without needing backup. That allows the rest of the group to enter the mines, and they find that the corruption has been spreading steadily towards the exit. Xylo says that they need to set up a barrier to stop the blight, and Rita gets excited because she can contribute to it. Xylo decides to let her help and teaches her how to hammer huge nails into the ground. Rita asks him about his next mission, and he replies that he has to set out the supply chests for the Holy Knights when suddenly, he hears a loud thud. He turns around and finds a glistening supply chest, and Norgal proudly declares that the traps around it are one of his finest works. He throws a stone near the chest, and suddenly, a crazy number of traps activate to defend it. Xylo is impressed and asks how are the knights going to disable the trap to get their supplies, and Norgal proudly announces that no one can disable the trap and the knights will all die unless they have the key to the chest. Xylo immediately takes the key away from the psycho inventor and tells him to disable all the traps, while Norgal tells him to get away because attacking a king is treason, and he can get him deported for that. Things settle soon after that, and the heroes take lunch break, where Rita tries to earn Xylo's praise by making rice balls for him. She asks him if their mission is proceeding well, and he affirms, saying that they seem to be pretty close to the Demon Lord. Rita suggests that the two of them defeat the Demon Lord themselves, but Xylo shuts down her suggestion, saying that it is a really burdensome job, and they don't have the orders to do it. Rita still wants the glory from defeating a Demon Lord, and Xylo tells her to join the Holy Knights if she wants that. The lowly goddess gets angry on hearing this and tells him that she needs to be acknowledged and praised by him. Otherwise, she will never get satisfied. Just then, they get a distress signal from the Holy Knights who are being attacked by the monsters, and they immediately rush to their aid. The Holy Knights are being pushed back by the miners who have turned into fairies, and Kivia is somehow leading the fight by taking out the monsters with her lightning spear. When Xylo and others reach her location, they find that the situation is terrible and a lot of Holy Knights have already lost their lives. Kivia is also at a disadvantage now, and Xylo asks her to give them the orders to help. She tells him to flank the monsters so that the Holy Knights can charge ahead. And as soon as he hears this, Zombie Guy charges ahead, hacking down the monsters. Xylo also gets ready for action, but Rita starts hesitating as she realizes that the monsters in front of them are humans, and their families are still waiting for them. Xylo tells her that they can never turn back to normal, and the least they can do is end their suffering. He suddenly throws his exploding knives at the monsters, taking down a lot of them at once. Kivia uses this chance to launch an all-out attack on the monsters, and the fight ends quickly with that. As Xylo watches the corpses of monsters spread everywhere, he finds that there are still survivors left in the mines. Kivia tells him that there are more survivors, but they are trapped somewhere else. Norgal declares them as the hard-working citizens of his country and orders for them to be rescued. But Kivia doesn't think it is a wise idea. She claims that it is not part of their mission, and then asks Xylo how many casualties will they face if they try to rescue the survivors. Xylo realizes that Kivia might be a bitch with an attitude problem, but she has a heart, and she really wants to help out the poor people. He tells her that she is going to lose a lot of men if she tries rescuing people in such narrow tunnels. But just then a priest comes there and asks Kivio if she really needs to seek advice from a hero. He says that their order is to use the nuke to wipe off the blight once they finish their objectives, and they shouldn't bother about randos being stuck in the mines. This infuriates Norgal, who charges ahead to punish the priest, but the knights stop him. The priest laughs at him, saying that the only disciple of the legendary sage has now turned into a madman. Xylo also tells him to shut up, or the seal around his neck will kill him. He agrees that saving the survivors is too much hassle, but as he turns around and sees Rita looking at him with the same pleading eyes as the girl from earlier, something inside him snaps. He declares that he will go ahead and rescue the miners, and if he dies, they can let his body stay buried in the tunnel. Rita is proud of him and ready to join the action, but Xylo tells the Holy Knights to take custody of her, because he can't let a goddess be buried under rubble. He declares that he doesn't care about the survivors, but he is mad at the idiots who came up with this mission, and he will go over their orders and save everyone on purpose. At the same time, the survivors have set up their last line of defense in a small gap in the mines. They try their hardest to block the constant attacks from the monsters using a wall made out of scraps. But that is not enough, and eventually, the monsters break their wall. The miners think they are all doomed, but just as the monsters are about to pounce on them, Xylo appears out of nowhere and throws his explosive knives at the monsters, blasting them off. Norgal commands Tetsuya to charge ahead to rescue his valuable subordinates, and the zombie man dashes towards the monsters, chopping them with his war axe. The monsters try to launch a sneak attack on him by spitting a net made out of their filthy saliva, but Tetsuya is too fast for that and utterly destroys the web. He then lunges towards the monsters that tried to ambush him and chops them up into 100 tiny pieces. The miners can only watch the hero's rampage with their jaws dropping to the floor. And then Xylo deals with the last of the monsters by throwing an exploding knife right in their middle. Once the two fighters have done their job, Norgal steps up to hog the glory and tells the miners that they don't need to fear anything now because he is here to rescue them from their hardships. The miners are relieved to know that help finally came for them, and Xylo tells them that they should be grateful because if there were only holy knights at this cave, they would have perished in the cave. He then tells the miners to pick up any weapon they can find because His Majesty Norgal, the king of Delulu Land, is a sacred seal specialist. Norgal has already opened up his toolbox, and as he begins inscribing sacred seals on shovels and pickaxes, he tells the miners that since there is no sunlight inside the cave, the sacred seals can't be used much. The amount of energy stored inside a person runs out quickly, and they can't use sacred seals for too long. But since he is the one crafting the seals, they are much more energy efficient and can last longer. He then asks Xylo how long can they fight, and Xylo looks at the clasp on his robe to answer that they still have some energy. A miner gets curious about the clasp and Xylo tells him that it measures how much energy he has left stored in his body. Norgal starts praising Xylo, saying that he can store much more energy as compared to normal soldiers, which is what makes him his elite guard. Xylo plays along with Norgal's delusions and thanks him. but he knows that despite his big battery, he can't keep fighting for too long. Later, he chats with a veteran miner, who curses the authorities for not informing them about the blight in time. Xylo says that he had expected more survivors, and the miner replies that there were about 50 of them originally. But then one senile old man went out because he was hearing voices, and when he returned, he had turned into a monster. Just then, Norgal's thunderous voice interrupts them, asking if everyone is ready with a weapon. He tells everyone to follow Tatsuya while ordering Xylo to be the rear guard and make sure they are not attacked from behind. Xylo agrees with his plan, and Norgal promises to make him the commander-in-chief of his royal forces once they return to safety. Suddenly, the cave starts shaking and Xylo realizes that they are in trouble. The very next moment, a bunch of monsters come out from the ground, and the miners start panicking. Xylo tells them to get back on their feet and fight, but the miners don't have the courage to face so many monsters. Xylo realizes that they might really die here while trying to protect the civilians, and Norgal is ready for that. He orders Xylo to be the first one to die, while he will be the second and zombie guy would be last to die in order to protect the civilians at all costs. Luckily, it doesn't come to that, and with the help of the miners, Xylo and others manage to defeat all the monsters. However, the miners are exhausted and terrified now, and they can't even gather the energy to get back on their feet. Xylo tries to whip them into shape like an army instructor, but Norgal really has some leadership qualities to call himself the king. He tells the miners that they are brave men who have worked hard for the prosperity of the kingdom, and mere monsters shouldn't scare them. He says that hard-working people like them should be rewarded with peaceful lives, and declares that no one will be left behind. His words inspire the miners, who agree to do their best despite knowing that their saviors are heroes, the world's worst criminals. However, another wave of monsters attacks them just then, and Xylo tells everyone to hold their ground. The miners panic as the monsters get close, but as one of them makes desperate attempts to fight back, he finds that their tools can easily cut through the monsters thanks to the sacred seals. Others see that too and begin fighting earnestly. But then the foreman gets tackled to the ground. A monster is about to pounce on him, when suddenly, a flurry of swords come raining from the entrance and take out all the monsters in an instant. Behind that is Rita, panting and sweating, as she tells everyone that she was a bit late. But now that she is here, they will surely survive. While Xylo is not happy that Rita disregarded his orders and came to this dangerous area, she proudly tells the miners to shower her with praises for saving their lives. Norgal is the first one to thank her, and then he tells everyone to grab a sword so that he can engrave sacred seals on them and create a barrier that the monsters can't pass. Xylo then confronts Rita, asking her why she is here when the Holy Knights were supposed to look after her. Rita proudly tells him that she gave them the slip, and asks him to praise her for saving everyone in the clutch situation. Xylo refuses and starts picking up swords, and Rita asks if he is not praising her because she arrived late. She says that it is his fault for leaving her behind, and Xylo clearly tells her that he has no plan to use her. Rita feels disheartened on hearing that and asks what should she do then. Xylo tells her to just stay alive and not try to sacrifice herself for the stupid ideas of glory and gratitude. Rita smiles gently on hearing this and says that because Xylo says things like this, he is worthy of her sacrifice. Her words start unraveling some deep-seated trauma inside him. But Rita continues her monologue, saying that she knows he is only worried about her well-being. She declares that his concerns are pointless, because she is a goddess, and she was created for being useful to humans. She knows that the desire to receive praises and thanks from humans is an inbuilt feature for her, but she still desires to live a glorious life, and not even Xylo can stop her from that. Xylo is pissed at her adamant nature, when suddenly, the ground starts rattling again. He orders everyone to get inside the barrier because the monsters can't approach them from beneath this way. He also tells Rita to stay back, but she tells him that if he wants to stop her from sacrificing herself, he should do his best to protect her. Xylo realizes that he can't win the debate with the blonde loli, so he decides to take out his frustration on the monsters instead. He yeets swords enchanted with his seal's power at the monsters, cutting them down and causing them to explode. But then suddenly, a high-pitched noise forces everyone on their knees. Xylo can't wield a sword any longer and the miners fall to the ground, writhing in pain. Tatsuya still remains in his berserk mode despite the sound that rattles everyone's brain, and the only one truly unaffected by it is Rita. She uses her power to shield Xylo from the effects of the ultrasonic scream, telling him that the source of the scream is none other than the Demon Lord. Just then, monstrous tendrils erupt from the ground and fuse together to take the shape of a huge tree. In front of the tree, a plant mommy emerges, and Rita hears it speaking like a human. Norgal can barely remain conscious in this situation, but he curses the Demon Lord for trying to steal his hard-working subjects from him. Meanwhile, Xylo tells Rita that it is too dangerous to step out of the protective circle, so they should support Tatsuya from here, since he seems to be unaffected by the sonic attacks and is fighting the Demon Lord on his own. Xylo tells Rita to make a lot of swords for him, and she is happy to help. She summons dozens of swords at once, and Xylo tosses them at the Demon Lord's tentacles, blasting them to open a path towards the Demon Lord's main body. Tatsuya keeps charging ahead, with his only goal being the destruction of the Demon Lord. But the plant mommy realizes that. She lets out another powerful scream, but that doesn't do anything to a guy who basically has lost the ability to think anything. Xylo keeps backing him up with Rita's help, and thanks to the continuous barrage of explosive swords, he opens a path for Tatsuya to attack the Demon Lord. The demonic plant mommy suddenly transforms into a huge worm and attacks Tatsuya, but he chops it in half and destroys the plant mommy. However, a bunch of tentacles immediately grab him, and Xylo realizes that the plant mommy was just a decoy and the real Demon Lord is somewhere else. Rita has found the main body of the Demon Lord in the meantime, and she points towards a flower sprouting out of the cave. Xylo immediately picks up a sword to destroy it, but unfortunately, he runs out of energy at the exact moment. Just then, Kivia arrives there with the Holy Knights to protect Rita, but the Demon Lord spots them and lets out a mind control scream to bring everyone down to their knees. Xylo cannot warn them quickly enough, and as Kivia is wondering what the hell is going on, tentacles emerge from the ground and begin grabbing the Holy Knights. Xylo realizes that there is only one thing he can do in this situation, and he rushes out of the protective circle, chopping down the Demon Lord's tentacles with a regular sword. However, he can't do everything alone, and the Demon Lord dismantles the barrier and starts grabbing the miners. Xylo rushes to save them, but it is time for Norgal to protect his people, and he breaks free from the tentacles using brute force before turning his lantern into a freaking flamethrower and shooting a powerful blue flame straight at the Demon Lord's core. The Demon Lord takes huge damage from his attack and drops the miners, and Xylo tells Norgal to finish the job by burning the core. However, the moment Norgal tries to activate his flamethrower lantern again, the Demon Lord grabs his feet and hoists him up in the air. Xylo panics on seeing this and rushes to grab the lantern, but the Demon Lord is also trying to grab it. Luckily, Tatsuya comes in clutch just then, and he pulls the Demon Lord's main body away by going into overdrive mode. The Knights can also move now, and they tell Xylo that they will protect Rita and the civilians. Rita tosses the lantern to him, telling him to finish the job, and Xylo takes aim, but the Demon Lord is ready for him. It completely blocks his vision and even restricts his movement, leaving Xylo completely stranded. Meanwhile, Norgal is hanging upside down right above the monster, with his leg brutally crushed. However, his pain is nothing in front of his rage that someone is trying to harm his people, and his manic frenzy. He chops off his leg and falls straight towards the Demon Lord's core. He panics for a moment, but then hears a voice calling his name, giving him the stability and control to point his sword straight at the Demon Lord's eye. Norgal stabs the Demon Lord's eye, and gets yeeted towards the walls the very next second. Luckily, his heroic efforts free Xylo, who uses the flamethrower to burn down the Demon Lord's core and its entire body along with it. While the Knights are still trying to process that the heroes defeated a Demon Lord without their help, the miners gather around Norgal to fix his wound. Even though seriously injured and unconscious, Norgal keeps asking everyone if he made it in time to protect his people this time. Tatsuya also goes into a slump after pushing his body through its limits, while Xylo sits quietly with Rita. Soon after that, everyone returns back to the town, and the survivors get to reunite with their families that were eagerly waiting for them. Venetum tells Xylo that he and others did a good job while sipping wine. He tells him not to worry about Norgal, because they already sent him to the repair shop, and he will get a new leg from someone else. Xylo hopes that he gets a good leg because he saved everyone this time. He then turns around to see the townspeople who are still judging the heroes, but just then, the foreman comes there with his family, telling Xylo that they will understand one day that just because the heroes are condemned criminals, they are not bad people. He thanks the heroes for saving him, and letting him return home in time for his daughter's birthday. The daughter turns out to be the same girl who met Xylo earlier, and she shyly presents flowers to him to thank him. Xylo is stunned at her gesture, but before he can say anything, Rita swoops in to claim that Xylo couldn't defeat the Demon Lord without her help, so she should get the flowers first. Xylo tells Rita to stop making demands from her fellow children, and then accepts the flowers from the girl, saying that they are pretty, but they don't suit him. He gives them to Rita instead, and she finally stops sulking for being called a kid. But that's where this video ends. Remember